Welcome to the ShePub Network, where we talk books, authors, and publishers. I am Shanita Finesse, CEO and founder of She Publishing LLC. And tonight, as usual, we have a treat for you. Okay. So, what we will be doing again over this season 4, we will be interviewing our authors, relaunching their books, doing book cover reveals, and just sharing with you some of the things that the authors on our platform are doing. Tonight, the name of tonight's show is Overcoming Opioid Addiction with Mr. S.R. Mays, and we will be diving into his book, The Effective Use of Spiritual Tools. Now, before we begin, I am going to tell you some of the things that we have going on with She Publishing LLC. What's going down? All right. So one of the first things that I want to let you guys know is that we are starting to do our book tours for this year. So this year, we have a lot of places that we're going, but next month is NOLA. The authors that will be representing us in New Orleans is Mark. He is the author of several books. We also have Tiffany. She is the author of Making My Spirit Smile. And then we also have Cameron, who will be representing us in the children's section with his book, Shadow of Retribution. So again, they will be representing us in New Orleans. They're going to have a really, really, really amazing time there. If you guys are not going this year, we need to make it a point to go next year, because this book fair, it is the Black Ink Book Festival. Second is our B&B newsletter mag. If you want to know more about what our authors are doing, make sure you pick up our B&B newsletter mags. This was actually our July edition. We have our February edition, and what we are doing is we are putting on the cover of our B&B newsletter mags the authors on our roster. We are featuring them. We are telling you we're going to get to know the authors on the roster. And then lastly, but certainly not least, She Publishing LLC, along with the She family, we are being honored at the Changing Seasons, Changing Lives. It's an event that's it is an event where Tia Ewing from Fox 32, she will be hosting this event. We are honored to be the 2024 Get Lit Award, and lit means literature, you guys. So that is September 28th. That will be in the Chi-Town area, and we definitely hope to see you there to support this amazing event. All right. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce the man of the hour, and we will be discussing the effective use of spiritual tools. Help me introduce Mr. S.R. May.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. That was such a nice introduction. I don't think I've ever been introduced so nice before, but thank you.
Well, so how you been doing, Mr. Mays?
I have been doing well. I've been keeping busy. This life that I have chosen has kept me quite busy. Now I moved on to mentoring, hands-on mentoring, so it keeps me busy.
All right. Well, I just want to let you know, for me personally, we're going to be getting into your book. Your book has been such an inspiration to me and several others on the She Publishing team. So um, I feel like I have one of the best jobs in the world, because I get to meet inspirational people like yourself, who are ordinary people just doing some extraordinary things. And I don't even think you guys know, but you do.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm definitely proud of you. So we're going to get started with the questions,
Okay.
if you don't mind. Okay. So my first question to you is, can you share a bit about your personal journey? Um, First of all, just tell us a little bit about yourself is where I'll start.
Well, Um, I am a retired individual and I'm 67 years old. Sometimes I think it's maybe about 20 years more than that, but today I'm 67. I feel 67 today. And I am one who struggled for years with addiction. And I mean, when I say struggled, I mean struggled. There were times when I thought that there was no other life but the life of being an addict. I thought that I thought everybody in the world was addicts because I couldn't understand how everybody was doing all the things they were doing and wasn't using some kind of substance because I couldn't. I had got to the point where I couldn't function without using it. So
Wow.
over the years, it got to be a real big problem. So I decided to do something about it.
Wow. So, for those of us who don't know what opioid addiction is, can you explain what that is?
Yes. And unfortunately, it has gotten to be worse than it was when I was using. So, opioids is, well, I use heroin, and it's a form of opioid, and it's a natural form of opioid. And what opioids do is uh, kind of like it shuts off your central nervous system. If you have, if there's a, that it's designed to dull pain. So when you're using opioids every day, and as I was using it for pleasure, not only was I feeling great every day because I'm be honest with you, using heroin for me was the greatest feeling in the world. I wasn't aware of the side effects when I first started using it, but I was very much aware of the effects it had on me. And it was the greatest feeling in the world. And if anybody says it wasn't, they're not being honest because it was. It relaxed me. It gave me confidence. It gave me a sense of empowerment. It was everything a person would want, especially as a young man in the world out in the dating scene, if you know what I mean. So it provided everything I needed until I ran into the side effects. So, I mean, when you ask about my personal journey,
Mhm.
it started when I was a teenager. And I, of course, like many others, we started experimenting with pot. But that was in the early 70s, maybe late 60s, early 70s. But around the mid 70s, I got introduced to heroin, and my life totally changed. I I couldn't say I was hooked then, but I fell in love with the effects of heroin and what it had on me. And over the years, it took years before I realized that there was a problem. But up until the end, there was no problem because being a young person with full of energy and vigor, you feel that you're invincible and nothing can. You feel nothing will hurt you, nothing will harm you, regardless of what people are saying out there about this stuff. You feel that won't happen to me. But I learned the hard way, as the book pretty much described. Actually, the second book describes more about the pressure that I felt under addiction than the first one does. But that was pretty much my journey. I mean, look, we don't have enough time in this program for me to go through the journey, but I just want to, let people know what it was like in the beginning.
Yeah. So I think that sharing your story is going to help someone else who may think the same. You think you're invincible, you think you can do this, you don't think there is a problem, but there is you know I just want to read an excerpt from your book, and maybe you can delve a little bit more into it. It is from the chapter titled How It Began for Me, which is where you kind of was going. And it says, at this time the pleasures outweighed the dangers, of which I was fully aware but still chose to disregard. I maintain that I maintain that all my senses, physical skills, and brain functions were enhanced by these substances. It was as if I had discovered a way to perform and live life at a very high level, completely ignoring the dangers.
This is exactly how it felt. I don't think anybody has ever taken drugs and thought, first of all, this is dangerous. If you hear it, if someone tells you it's dangerous, even when you're taking them, so you didn't think it was dangerous, first of all. And that was me. I never thought drugs. I can remember, and this is what the Bible teaches us, the power of words. I can remember the first time I uttered the words that I want to try some dope. And I may have still been in 13 years old then. It didn't happen till a few years later, but I remember saying those words. And looking back, I think I shouldn't have said that.
Wow. Wow. And so, like, and you even go on to say, over the next 25 or so years, I became dependent on the chemicals found in opioids, and without them, I couldn't do even the simplest functions. But yet, you still continued.
And only way I was able to do the simplest function was to continue. I had to maintain that action every day in order to do the simplest function. And when I say the simplest functions, I mean even eating. I had no
Wow.
appetite. I had no appetite unless I had the heroin first. Uh, Hygiene. I didn't practice hygiene if I didn't have the heroin. I didn't want to move. I didn't want to do anything. By that by that time, I had gotten to the point where I I began to realize that this is something I need to try to fix, even though it still took me years after that before I actually did it. I began to realize that then because for it didn't I didn't recognize it, but people around me were pretty much saying, "Boy, you need to go take a shower," stuff like that. And I'm like, I'm a grown man. I don't need people telling me that. But under the
Hmm.
influence of heroin, you don't care about what people think about you. Or
Right.
actually, it wasn't under the influence. It's when I didn't have it. Those were the miserable times. I didn't care what anybody thought. Because if I didn't have it, I couldn't function. So I didn't care what people thought. Only thing I thought about was getting it to survive. This is what I believe.
Wow. And so, how do you feel about discussing this? Like, do you talk to others about this? Because, like, do you go back to it? I mean, like, how does it make you feel? Because you are pouring out your heart, in this book. You're being really vulnerable with us in this book. And even today, I just want to thank you because I think this is truly going to inspire others.
That's what motivates me to do that. The thought that it might inspire someone else. Look, I know deeply an addict's thoughts and how they're thinking. I know deeply. So if I share those things and let them know that someone else has been through that situation, has been in that situation, and has found a way out, then I've done what I'm supposed to do. I mean,
Wow.
there are times when when I first got out of a 90-day treatment program, I said to myself, I don't even want to talk about the past anymore. It's done, it's dead. That's not me anymore. Like Paul says in the Bible, that's not me anymore.
Mhm.
I'm not that person anymore. And people in the program were saying, well, you have to talk about it. I do not have to talk about it. I don't have to. Now, if I want to, I will. If someone asks me, if someone approaches me, I'm going to sit down and pour my heart out, as you can tell. But
Yeah.
other than that, I don't voluntarily go around telling everybody I am a heroin addict and I overcame it and this is how I did it.
Mhm.
Now that's what I hope the book does is because I want to share those thoughts. But I don't I don't go back to those days and I don't talk about them as much with people unless someone asks me about it. because those were the most
Mhm.
miserable times in my life. And the least I think about them, I mean, the better I am that moment. So I don't
Yeah.
talk about them a lot.
Yeah, well, they say that I don't necessarily I can't remember what the saying is, but your past don't define you. It doesn't define your future.
No.
So you don't have to talk about it. You've moved on, and we may go through more struggles or something like that in the
Yes.
future, but we going to live in today is what we're going to do. And today, we good today.
Yes. As I said, if someone asks me about it, because
Mhm.
there are people that know that I was there, and they
Mhm.
are curious about how did you do it. I sit down and tell them exactly what I did. There's also a saying that I don't use that, and I think you had this question later on. I was going to try to wait till we got to it,
It's okay.
but there's also this saying that I don't use in other programs and treatment programs. They said, once an addict, you're always an addict. I don't use that. I do not admit to that because I say again the power of words. I do not.
Yes,
I would not say I'm still an addict when I don't use drugs anymore. They say, well, you're
exactly.
just someone that doesn't use drugs no more, but you're still an addict. I don't. I don't have addictive. I don't have any addictive tendencies except studying scriptures. If that's an addictive tendency, but other than that, I don't. And so, when people tell you in
Mhm.
those programs that are designed to help people, and I, let's not give them all the credit in the world because
Yeah.
they're doing the best they can with the knowledge that they have. But a lot of them, if they have not gone through this process, if they have not been down in the pits and come out of it, it's difficult for them to relate.
Yeah. So let's talk about, you mentioned it. Let's talk about finding your way out and how that happened. So I know the biggest resource that you had, okay? But tell us a little bit about what you did to overcome.
First, I'm going to tell you about a divine intervention that I had, and this let me know that God does exist. I think I had been laying around and I had been getting high all day at work, came home, was scared to go to sleep, like happens a lot of times when I've been doing that. And I was scared to go to sleep. And when I finally did fall asleep, I found myself back to where it started. And it started in my mother's basement before it was remodeled. This is how I know something strange was happening because at the time I had the dream, the basement had been remodeled, but when I was in the dream, it had not been remodeled. So I was back there, and notice I said I was in a basement, and I heard a noise in the back of the basement. I get up, I go to the back of the basement, and I look up, and all I see is blue skies. And I knew right then I was in trouble because I'm in a basement. There's two stories that's supposed to be above me, and all I see is blue skies. I said to myself, I am in trouble. So I asked, and I knew I was in the presence of somebody because I was trembling with fear. I was actually trembling with fear. And I just asked, I say, so God, what do you want me to do? And what I heard was just live your life. But I heard it in a way and I heard it in a way of you're gonna change. This is not going to be you. You're going to change. Just live the life that you have. And from then on, it started to shift. Everything started to shift. My purpose for living began to develop a little bit more because it was soon after that my first grandchild was born. Okay, so now I got another purpose. And I kept getting more purposes in life. Another granddaughter was born. So all of that caused me to start to look for a way out, to seriously look for a way out. And once I started to look for a way out, this is the power of prayer. I started to pray. God sent me some help. Well, actually, He did. He sent help right away. I didn't obey it, I didn't do it, but He did. And the more I wanted to find a way out, the more things came to me and convinced me that this is what I needed to do. The more the more ways were presented that this is how you can get out of this. So the first thing I had to do was admit that I was there and recognize that there was someone that would help me out and then be obedient. And that was my first step of stepping out of that pit, that hole.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. I do hear people say that maybe they've seen something or heard something, and that's what turned them around.
It turned
So
me
I
around.
believe it. Mm-hmm.
It actually made me start looking harder because I was halfway looking, knew I shouldn't be doing this and wanted to, but that made me look harder because that moment could have went different. It could have said, you know what? Because I was expecting to say, that's it for you. You're done. That's it. So it could have went different. And because it didn't, I said, okay, I gotta try harder. I gotta try a lot harder than I've ever tried before. And
Wow.
that's when I did.
So it was basically really your faith and spirituality that helped you overcome this. That was like the main
It was the
thing.
guiding force. I
Okay.
followed. And that's what's really important. When you pray for something and He provides it, and you don't act on it, it's like, why are you wasting my time? So, and I was at first because a lot of times I would pray for a door to open for me to get out of this. Someone will come to my job that I hadn't seen in maybe months. Where you been? I've been in a program, man, trying to get my life together. Here's the name and the number, and you should try it. I'm like, oh my God, I just prayed for this last night, and here
Wow.
it is. But I didn't
Wow.
do it. I didn't do it right away. That happened twice. That actually happened twice, and I didn't act on them either time. The third time I did, though. The third time I did, and it was no turning back then.
Now, so what advice would you give to someone who's struggling with addiction?
First of all, as always, because I noticed that people that are struggling with addiction, a lot of them aren't very spiritual. So I want to say
Okay.
turn to prayer first, but a lot of them aren't. But I noticed that the majority of them are looking for something or some way out. So my advice for them is to just start saying this to themselves. I'm gonna overcome this. Just keep saying it. Now they may not be saying it to a higher power, but just keep saying it. You have to put that in your spirit to keep saying that I can overcome this. I'm not gonna let this defeat me. I have a way out. I can do this. You have to keep saying positive. Whether you believe in God or not, just keep saying positive things about how you're going to find a way out. And then things will start to happen. And then a lot of times they start to realize, wait a minute, something else is in control here that's helping me. And once you unlock that door, then other avenues will start to open up because that's pretty much. I mean, I've been a person of faith all my life, and even when I was using drugs, I knew about God. I believed in Him, and I had people that were praying for me. I don't think if they weren't, I don't think I would have survived that time. But a lot of times it's your positive reinforcement in yourself because Satan wants you to give in. He wants you to say, okay, well, I give in. You got me. This is how I'm gonna die, and I'm not gonna try to get out of it. But all you have to do is just make one small effort, just a few words, a few words. Just say a few words each day, and keep it up. I mean, it doesn't hurt to say a word every day, or say a couple of words. I'm not doing this no more. Just say that.
Right. So what I am gonna say is the things that you're saying, it kind of works in a lot of different aspects of our lives. Speak
Absolutely.
positivity into your life. Don't say you will always be. No, I'm not. I will not always be. So I think, a lot of the concepts that you speak on in your book, as well as what you're saying right now, are things that we can use in everyday life when we are being challenged with something or we're going through something. I know we were talking about some of my struggles that I have been going
Right.
through lately, and it's just reading your book and seeing some of the things that you use and you did. And even right now, it's an inspiration to me that, okay, I can overcome, we can move forward, I can do this, so you just got to speak it. And next thing you know, tomorrow something may happen or someone may come up, and there you go.
And that opens up the door. That's right. And you are so right, because writing this book, I wrote it for people that are struggling with addiction, but it's for anybody that's struggling with any kind of abuse or any struggles. Because
Yeah,
everyone that has read it has said that exact thing to me. Sandy, I could use this in other areas of my life. And
it's
that is,
true.
yeah,
It's true. I do want to ask you though about your process of writing the book. But before I ask you that question, you talked about people were praying for you. And I just got to read this part in your book because I think that is huge for us to have supporters or people who are constantly praying for us and believing in us. We need that as individuals. And so I'm just going to read this, and this is a foreword that is written by your daughter. And I just want to read just the beginning part so that the viewers can understand how special you are and how special we all are to the people who mean the world to us. So it reads, "My father, I pause because I can say so many great things about him. He taught me how to love and be loved. He encouraged everyone to be the best versions of themselves, even when he may have felt he was at his worst. I say felt because I didn't discover his struggles until I reached my late teens. Therefore, I never knew there was even a worst. To me, he was just dad, a man, a wise man, a protector, and still today a hero. I accredit my father primarily for the teachings of my oldest son being a respectful, God fearing man. So to hear that and to hear the things that you struggled with, you continue to pour into others. I mean, how does that make you feel?
actually in hindsight, because at the time, I wasn't aware of it. And there's a section in the book though on insight, foresight, and hindsight. But in hindsight, at the time, I was doing what I thought I should be doing, not having any idea of the impact, because my daughter and my oldest son, I tell them this all the time. You guys grew up to be some great individuals despite me, you know, because it wasn't like I was giving them all I should have been giving them, and that bothered me. So for when she first wrote it before I sent it to you, I had to sit here and wait and dry my eyes a bit, because
Mm-hmm.
I had never heard that from her. And it was something that when I did ask her about, she said, "Dad, you just don't know all the things that you've done for me, even
Wow.
though you didn't know." And I said, "I did not know."
Wow. Well, it definitely moved me. because the former was written by your daughter and your son,
Hmm.
so, just because we go through things, this is a testament that you're not a bad person. You're a great person. We're actually great people who go through challenges, and sometimes we make bad decisions, you know, um, and that's life, you know. And guess what? It birthed a book.
It actually birthed three books because you have
Oh,
this, you have the second one, and I'm almost done with the third one. And it has birthed a YouTube channel because
yes,
we go through stuff, and as you said, we're not bad people, and that's we're not bad people by design. It's that possession. Ephesians 6:12. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but with principalities, and pretty much said we're wrestling with demons. And drug addiction is a demon. It really is. Uh, Abuse is a demonic possession. So I did not. I mean, I thank God that I had people that were praying for me because I really believe that they kind of kept. I mean, I could have been worse than I was. I could have done some really atrocious, low down, unethical things, but I never did that. The only thing I did was harm myself. I never harmed another person while I was out there in the streets. And I think that had a lot to do with those prayers that were being prayed for me to protect me, because the best protection that was for me was to not indulge in those things that could have got me in trouble or worse. So
right. Okay, so yeah, the first book, The Effective Use of Spiritual Tools. And then the second book that's coming out in June is The Pressures of Addiction, Finding a Way Out. So, how was it like writing these books? Did you have any challenges? And if so, what were they? And how did you overcome them? I know that was a lot.
yeah, well, actually, it took. I can say when I the manuscript for both of those books was started back in I think 2002, and it was just something that, and even while I was under the influence, I was writing stuff down. I was writing how I was feeling, how horrible I was feeling, and how much I wanted to do something about it. So after, and like I said, started in 2002. So about 2011, 2012, I I ran across those notes or journals, and I couldn't believe some of the stuff that I was putting in there, and I was like, yes, I was actually feeling this way, and it made me think. I say somebody probably needs to hear this and understand that what I was going through, they're probably going through now. And I found a way out, even though it was a lot of pressure. I mean, writing the book was more or less me taking the journals and then letting inspiration take over. I was a lot of stuff came through revelation. A lot of it did because, like, as you know, I do prayer and meditation. It's in the book, and I would meditate and get maybe a sentence or a topic in my head, and next thing you know, I got 3 pages, and it all came through revelation. But it was all based on what I had inside of me already. A lot of stuff I had to remind myself. Oh, I remember. Yeah, that did happen to me because, like I told you, I put all that away. It was done, but I had to reactivate it to put it in the second book. And I'm actually glad I did because it gives me satisfaction in knowing that I overcame this stuff. I overcame this stuff, and now I'm working toward helping someone else, if I possibly can, that's going through it to overcome it. So there were some challenges in writing it. There were some days I was like, okay, who wrote this? What the heck does that mean? Wait a minute, who wrote this? But through by the grace of God, I mean, I was able to get it done. There were when I first started writing the first book, I was still working, so it got hard for me to come home from work and write, and I didn't get a lot of inspiration to write until very early in the morning, where I couldn't do it then because I had to get ready for work. So
Hmm.
the job was kind of an obstacle, and I think that the reason why I ended up hurting myself, I didn't do it on purpose, but was so I can remove that obstacle. But once that was done, it's the rest came pretty much like I would hope it would come.
Wow. So, will we look forward to seeing you at some of the book tours that we
Yeah.
do?
Yes, I had some health issues I had to work on first, and
Hmm.
so that's all been taken care of by the grace of God. I knew it would be, but it was a process that I had to go through. So, but
Okay.
yes, I can now. I'm looking forward to it actually.
Okay, yeah, because I don't know if you like parties or not, but
Uh,
I don't think you like parties.
Not, I mean, okay. I think you and I had this conversation before, but
Yes,
okay.
we do. We don't have to have it again. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Okay.
I'll try.
Well, yeah, well, look, it's all up to you. You know, I
No,
love for you to meet your brothers and sisters in authorship when we do our thing and when we celebrate you guys. But I understand.
oh no, I'm not. I'm actually looking forward to it this time around.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Well, look, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. So, lastly, what do you hope readers will take away from your book? And I think you may have already shared this a little bit, but yeah.
Well, I want to be an example, and I want them to look at or read, even go to the YouTube channels and see an example of what can happen when you first trust and you apply the tools. I mean, really, the tools are just something that I gave an example of. What I hope people do is look in that book, because first you have to find out what you need to fix. You can't go back get tools for stuff unless you know what you're working on. So figure out what you need to fix. The basic tools are always in the Bible, and that's where you find them at. And then you can improve on them. Adjust them, or make them fit your problem. Because the tools that I use may not work for everybody. But what I emphasize, the message in the book is find some tools, come up with some tools, use them. If you have to invent some tools, if they work, do that. I want people to be encouraged that there is a way out, and I'll be
Okay.
there to help them find a way out if I can.
Yeah. So tell the viewers about your YouTube, the name of it, because they may want to get in contact with you, and then tell them where they can go to purchase your book.
Okay, the YouTube channel is called Overcoming Addiction by Sandy R. Mays. And just type in Overcoming Addiction by Sandy R. Mays and it should pop up. The book can be purchased through She Publishing, and everyone should be able to find She Publishing. And I believe it's in Walmart, Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, maybe some other places, but I'm not aware of yet. But mainly, I would prefer people go to She Publishing and purchase the book. That way, they can look at other books in your library. See,
Yeah, look, you representing, and I love it. Okay, just let you know I love it.
thank you.
You got on the swag, and I'm loving it.
I think this is the first I've had this shirt year, and I think this is the first time I've actually worn it. There have been
Swag.
other. But other times I wanted to wear it and then think about it. I'm like, oh, I should have worn my shirt.
Well, look, we appreciate it. Your family, we truly appreciate it. And I can't wait to share. I can't wait. So, for all the viewers, please make sure you write your name and where you're from in the chat. We're going to put your name in a raffle, and we're gonna pick the name, and then whatever name I pick, you will get your free copy of The Effective Use of Spiritual Tools by Mr. S.R. Mays. So that is what we are going to do. And with that, we're going to see you guys next time. Do you have any final words for the viewers?
Well, I thank everybody for tuning in, and remember to always try to encourage each other. Sometimes a little bit of kindness goes a long way, and just
Wow.
make sure you encourage each other. That's it.
Wow. And with that, see you next time.
Bye, everyone. Shanithia.